Okay, everybody. Today we have Stu Richards from who has worked in a variety of startups in traditional media companies, but particularly in the Web3 and immersive media space. And what I love about him is he is largely a contractor freelancer and really understands the space and business wise. So when he and I were talking about, he gave a big tutorial on using Hyperfy last year when we did this, which was a Web3 world building platform, which is super cool. But those are still having a hard time getting some traction. But he and I both realized, and so did Jesse Segal, and we'll have him, that Unreal is really doing some interesting things, and Unreal Fortnite creator is also doing some interesting things. And so I am recording this, but so I think that this will be very interesting, and there will be questions. He's put together a beautiful presentation, but you all don't have to think about this just from Unreal Fortnite perspective, but from just a world building and where the opportunities are. So, Stu, and you can kind of introduce any of the things that you feel that are wonderful and fascinating about what you've done, but take it away.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the introduction. I, yeah, I mean, you gave a great overview, but what I'd say, first and foremost is I'm going to be talking about Epic Games as a whole, Unreal Engine, and Fortnite, as well as Unreal Editor for Fortnite. Today, I am someone who has used these tools relatively extensively, but it's not my primary area of focus. I don't really have a primary area of focus, but I like to stay on top of understanding all the new features, tools, technologies that are available at our disposal from both a creator standpoint and a business standpoint. But today we're kind of going to be looking at the nice little intersection of those two things and kind of the creator economy that Epic Games is building out. I Elizabeth, is it possible just to kind of give me a sense of, as of today, how much everyone's dealt with Unreal Engine?
Yeah, so everyone has built a world in traditional Unreal Engine. They've actually gotten a concept like how you can scan things in Luma AI. They've looked at Blockade Labs. They've sort of seen what the Unreal Store does, but they've also learned how hard it is to build an Unreal.
Yeah, okay, great. That's great context. And yeah, Unreal is hard. It's challenging. And before I dive into the content, the two primary third-party game engines that people create with are Unity and Unreal primarily. There's other ones like Godot and a couple of others, but I started out my development career in Unity, and I thought that was extremely challenging. When I hopped over to Unreal, when I hopped over to Unreal, things made a lot more sense. So I guess what I'm saying is that Unreal kind of packages a very complex set of technologies up in a very good way. It's extremely challenging nonetheless, but from a game engine perspective, I really like what Unreal is doing. And given the things that we'll talk about today, it's a huge place of opportunity to become an subject matter expert in any of the toolkits that they have under the Epic Games umbrella. Because what you'll see is over time, these things will continue to integrate more and more. And Epic's really kind of building out this ecosystem. There's a really good document by Matthew Ball, who's kind of one of, if not the most prominent um, people, writers within the metaverse space. He's got a great book that came out, I think last year, that really summarizes everything of how this is all going really well. But he and another author explain this flywheel that Epic Games has of how things kind of tie together and really what the business model is. And that's very complex web of interactions between different components. But Epic, I'm sorry, I got a cough last night out of nowhere, but um, Epic's CEO, Tim Sweeney, really has a vision of the future, I think probably stronger than what Unity does. Or Unity's leadership. And he is very much focused on fair revenue practice for creators that build with Unreal or in the Epic ecosystem. And there's many ways that this can be seen, but the goal is to minimize fees taken and support the creator as much as possible while sustaining a business. Um, so really, what we're going to speak about today, the first piece of this puzzle is Unreal Engine. Obviously, you've had exposure to it. It's real-time 3D engine, rich tool set across a lot of different mediums. I think the power of Unreal over something like Unity is just the breadth of applications that Unreal seems to be supporting, whether that's virtual production, whether that's industrial simulation, whether it's game making. It's really a very versatile toolkit for a lot of different types of applications. And also, it's known for its very high fidelity graphics. Unity is kind of more focused on, would say, highly optimized mobile first in its approach, whereas Unreal's more for the AAA games, really, really high quality rendering, and yeah, uh, and it's also free. Unity copped a lot of uh, slack last year when they announced an increase in basically the cuts that they were going to take from game makers, and they shot themselves in the foot massively. They backtracked, and so really, Unreal is kind of seen as one of the primary engines, but is now kind of more made its name for itself as being creator first with all of this. So, we've got Unreal Engine, but we've also got Fortnite. And Fortnite is a huge platform. I think it's still highly underleveraged in terms of what the power of it has to offer. So, 650 million registered players worldwide. Um, Generated a ton of revenue. And revenue is an interesting thing that we'll touch on near the end, with especially revenue being generated by creators. But they make a lot of money. They have 230 million monthly active users, spending 8 to 10 hours weekly in game. It's cross-platform, desktop, console, mobile on Android, and you can also stream it through different services like Xbox One. Sorry, Xbox Cloud, I think it's called. Maybe it's something else, but it's very accessible. And its game model, which we'll get into here, it kind of created the popularity in the Battle Royale, and that's kind of the primary game mode. What most competitive streamers play, what the esports teams focus on traditionally. But there's a ton of different game modes that have been coming out. Um, you know, I'm just trying to find it. So basically, like Epic can go and create games and put them on this Playfront store where you go in and you select the game. And honestly, I wanted to demo this in real time, but unfortunately, I didn't have 100 gigs of space left to download it. But yeah, so there's different game modes. But what people have been doing for a few years, or actually since it launched, is building their own games in Fortnite Creative V1. And Creative V1 was kind of an in-world game creator. So I don't know, it's probably way too old these days, but like you used to be able to in games like Tony Hawk's, you'd be able to go in and build your own skate park and skate in it. It's kind of similar to that, where you are, if you're playing on a console or on your computer, you're using the game to build out these different maps, these different environments, integrating different devices, which basically game components of when something happens, do this, or kind of how the game is, what the game is built around, or the gameplay is built around. But everything was in world, and that made it very clunky, very difficult to build unless, you're really passionate about it. So it kind of limited what people could do in terms of complexity. Um, there was initially a 5% revenue share. Um, of the Fortnite revenue that was ported back to creators. And that was a lot less than platforms like Roblox were offering at the time at around 25 to 30%. Um, but the interesting thing, I only found this out the other day, is that about 40% of the actual playtime for users was spent in these creative mode build maps. Um, so it was definitely a big contribution, but to the Fortnite ecosystem as far as gameplay and why people were coming to the game. But creators weren't really compensated for it appropriately. But then came along the state of Unreal at GDC in 2023, and they made this massive announcement where there would be new development tools being built out and a new economy focused around Fortnite. And that is when they announced Unreal Editor for Fortnite. So typically called UEFN. Um, but really it expanded the toolkit massively of how people could create, where you're basically using a lightweight version of Unreal Engine to create these games on a personal computer. And then it also introduced a massive addition to the ecosystem, which I think Tim Sweeney has been like, he talked about it probably 3 years ago in a tweet. But I'm sure they've been working for a while, but they created a new programming language called Verse. This is basically a metaverse coding language. And that gave creators the ability to just really, move beyond those gameplay components that I was referring to before, the devices, and stop creating and programming their own elements. So that in itself, as far as a expansion of what could be done, was huge, absolutely massive. Um, to support the new creator economy they are building, they expanded the revenue share from 5% to 40% of net Fortnite revenue. Um, and obviously, this is to encourage development of games and what people were building in here. Um, and the rev share model is more time the players spend in your game, the more the creator will earn. Pretty simple. And thus far, as of 3 weeks ago, 320 million dollars have been distributed to creators, and I think 80,000 maps that have been built. And when we're saying a map has been built or a level has been built, it's a very tough process to actually just get it into the public arena. It requires a lot of um, QA. It requires you need to do a lot of in-game optimization. There's a process of validating and having manual checks by the Epic team to ensure that it passes all the standards, this, that, and the other. So it's not like, okay, I'm just going to make a game in UEFN and then everyone's going to be able to play it. It's a rigorous process to get there. As long as you adhere to the guidelines, though, you should be fine. But I will say that a couple of people that I know have spent, a lot of time, months and months building out these games just to not be able to launch it, and that's really tough. But um, Epic's been doing a lot better in trying to accommodate or improve that QA process. So what does that actually look like? Again, I want to download this to actually show you, but what you see here look very, very similar to Unreal Engine. Actually, I'm going to play this video in the background, but this kind of gives you an example of how it looks. You've got a lot of similar tools that you have in Unreal Engine, but there are a lot of limitations, and really it's great because it's kind of Fortnite's typically used for just gameplay, and this seems to be a very much a gameplay focused variation of Unreal, where you don't have all the virtual production things and all of this, that, and the other. The other great thing about it is that the goal is to kind of integrate Unreal Engine and UEFN. So some of the work that you need to do for more advanced things, you can actually, typically you just think, oh, I can't do that, but you can actually do it in Unreal and then port it across to UEFN. And I'll just touch quickly on this because this section was highlighted, but the gameplay, if you're not touching Verse, the gameplay is controlled by these things called devices, and they're just objects that you can add in world, and they have a different set of parameters. So like if it's a weapon launcher or a weapon pickup. You select the weapon, you select the number of the amount of ammunition that it has, you select this, that, and the other, and it makes it very easy to get up and running with these kind of prefabs, gameplay prefabs that they have. Also, Verse, it's just a coding language, but it's very I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but it's very much focused on the operations that I guess Tim Sweeney and team foresee being needed in the future. They wouldn't put all this work into it for nothing because they think that they can do better by building their own. Then yes, and so I wrote it down here. Yeah, so it's designed to think more about whether things work or don't instead of just Boolean yes or no answers. Allows you to create a lot more complexity in the games that you're building. And there's a lot of hints in the forms of tweets and, nothing necessarily official, but what I foresee happening is, Unreal Engine is built with a C++ backend. That's how you code all the functionality within an Unreal Engine. But from tweets like this, I think they're going to incorporate Verse into Unreal as well. And kind of, again, like there seems to be he's trying to build feature parity between UEFN and UE5. And honestly, I'll get to that last slide in a sec, but that's a great segue into this. I would highly, highly recommend you watching this video if you want to learn more. Actually, all of these videos I highly recommend watching. But I actually just tuned into this today. It was 3 weeks ago that it was the state of Unreal was. And this is basically just shows all the improvements to the platform in terms of what you can do. And so, one of the major things is physics. Let's see. I'll show you a little preview. So now this is, in-world simulated multiplayer physics, which is fantastic. There are new different types of game modes. I've lost them here, but yeah, like I guess they are now working with Fall Guys, and you'll see a lot of this in the Epic ecosystem where they will partner with not only IP but other games to bring those games to life in UEFN. But as far as feature parity goes, and I had no idea this existed, but this is an example of a world built in UEFN. You look at this, and it's very cinematic, extremely high quality, beautiful game world. It's actually only 200 megabytes, which is absolutely insane, in my opinion. But that is what Epic is trying to build things that are highly accessible and allow creators to create true state-of-the-art, way looking games, all within an editor that's relatively easy to use. But one of the big features of Unreal Engine is MetaHuman. And I guess now they have integrated MetaHuman into UEFN, which is pretty wild. And so what you see here is a MetaHuman that you can make with the MetaHuman creator. And this is, it actually running within I think this is yeah, this is the UEFN editor. But you can, create your um MetaHuman, you can animate them. I'm not sure if you guys have touched this at all, but Epic has a really good tool where you basically use your iPhone and you can do full-time, real-time facial tracking. You can also scan your face using different technologies and bring in like the pure sculpt of your face and create a metahuman around that. What they're showing here is a tool called Marvelous Designer by a company called Clo 3D, and now you're able to create cloth simulation of your own garments. So release over release, it seems as though Epic's really trying to make this feel as much UEFN feel as much like Unreal Engine as possible. And when you actually see this come to life, let me see if I can. So they're editing the body here. But they just turn on the cloth simulation, and this will kind of show, the amount of physics that goes into this, the amount of, processing that they've been able to optimize to be able to bring this to a 200 megabyte world and have it run and look like this is just absolutely incredible. So yeah, the last thing I will talk about is Lego, which has been a huge partnership for them. I'll actually see if I can. Okay, let's see. So Lego is kind of a different form of gameplay than typical Fortnite. It's survival based, so it's not like shoot 'em up battle royale style. It's actually surviving, getting different resources, using those resources to build out different worlds and this, that, and the other. But that's been kind of like a gameplay mode, which you go in and play, don't necessarily build for yourself. However, now, of course, they have given people the ability to build entire Lego Islands in UEFN. And I was always, in the last couple of years, just wondering when Lego was going to do something, who they were going to partner with. I always thought it would be Epic, but it's been great to see this come about because, this is a very easy entry point to get people hooked into the Epic ecosystem at a very young age, which, isn't necessarily the goal, but for Lego to find the activation partner through Unreal and Epic, I think is the right decision about going about this. And I know we've kind of covered a lot. I'm just checking up on time. Yeah, we've covered a lot, but that's really what I wanted to run through. I think there's a lot of things that need to be considered though, because there are still limitations. If we compare it to something like Roblox as far as the editor goes, and I don't really have anything to show right now, but I would say Roblox is more advanced in terms of what can be done through the editor just simply because it's been around for longer. And there's been more releases, more updates, this, that, and the other. But as far as an editor goes, I think UEFN is much better than Roblox Studio in terms of usability because obviously it's being built on the back end of Unreal Engine. Roblox does have a big benefit to their creator ecosystem currently, and that's it because creators can build avatars, they can build wearables. The avatar system is in fact split up. Each different component of the body you can build wearables for. Um, Epic, and this is from a business standpoint, I think the right decision to make. From a user perspective, I don't love it. But Epic's just basically said, hey, we're going to be in control of the avatars stuff at this point in time. The reason they do that is because they get to work with very big IPs to bring, their IP to life. And that is, multi-million dollar deals, incoming revenue streams from that. Once you start allowing creators to kind of have control of that part of the ecosystem, that money is probably going to dwindle a little bit for a while until things kind of turn. But yeah, Epic really has a very controlled way of doing things as far as the actual things that you can buy in world at the moment. They have a currency called V-Bucks. That's not really incorporated into UEFN at this point in time, again, because it's a very limited creator ecosystem where you really the only way you can make revenue is through building games and nothing else. But I see the tide turning at some point, whether it's a year, whether it's 2 years from now. I don't think they can survive long term by just relying on the partnerships that they broker and bringing in the IPs that they want to bring in. That said, they've been doing it for a while and it's been very successful. So who knows? They may keep it that way. And in terms of being able to build, like again, your experience in Unreal has probably shown you how difficult it is to build games. I think UEFN makes it a lot easier, but as soon as you want to start dealing with verse, like that's a whole nother ball game. It allows for a huge amount of flexibility, but at the same time, you've you've got to learn and get over the learning hurdles. So, just wondering if there's anything else. Yeah, that's probably it. So hopefully that gave you a good high level overview. There's four videos that I'd highly recommend watching that I'll send to you, Elizabeth, after this. And honestly, like if you have 100 gigs on your machine, give it a shot. Try build something. It takes an hour to or less to make some of these template games that they have. I'll also say though that you do need a pretty decent machine in order to run this because you actually, in order to test out these games, and this may have changed because I haven't built in a while in UEFN, but you actually need to launch the game alongside the engine. So you're kind of running two very computationally exhaustive programs side by side, which can get a bit tricky. If you've got a console or another device, you can stream it. So, like when I did testing for my games, I actually just used my Xbox to do the gameplay and have the editor up on my computer. But yeah, all in all, there's a lot of potential here, not just being in Fortnite, but getting into the Epic ecosystem and seeing how all of these pieces work. Like from a creator standpoint, there is a lot of opportunity to kind of become a revenue generating creator within this ecosystem. Um, and I've seen it happen so many times where like these people are on LinkedIn or Twitter, started out small, what, two years ago and just were doing tutorials and now they've got huge reach, have made huge businesses around them. Epic does an incredible job at supporting them, whether it's through sharing what they create to their larger audience, whether it's, inviting them to speak at events or just basically getting them involved in the ecosystem. So I've seen many creators that started at the bottom and now have built huge brands for themselves just through tinkering and testing out these new features, deploying a couple of maps. So yeah, give it a shot, try it out. I think you'll love it.
Um, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay. I think we have some questions. Are you able to answer some questions?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. Good. Now, I'm not sure. So everybody's sitting really close to the TV because
Okay.
we have such bad audio. Well, here's the camera right here.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's right here.
hi, I'm Issa. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Hey, Issa.
I have a few, these are more like personal, you like. Do you play Fortnite? Have you ever made money off of Fortnite? And what is your favorite game to play?
It's a great question. No, I don't play Fortnite.
Interesting.
When UEFN came out, me personally, I play three games. I play Madden, I play NBA 2K, and I play FIFA. But I deal with games all the time. And I just like testing the tools more than the games themselves. So I'm coming from all of this, from a pretty skewed side of things. But when UEFN came out, and even with Fortnite Creative 1.0, when I started testing the tools, I definitely played for like other people's creations for a long time to figure out what people were doing, how it all worked, and what players get attracted to. So yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Um, and also this is just my brain who wants to ask it. You typically like what is your hands on for the
I'm so sorry. The mic is
game?
cutting out a fair bit.
Have you ever worked directly with Epic Games?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
I guess I
I got it.
Oh, no, I haven't. I've definitely tried to. Epic is an interesting company. They are all based out of North Carolina. They do no remote hiring. And uh, it's interesting that they require everyone in the entire company and the partner companies to be located there. But it's
They're
kind
very
of
near us, very North Carolina.
yeah, yeah.
It's where you go for like tennis tournaments, at least that's what
But I've done a lot of outreach and no, the Epic team I think is pretty closed off. And it's kind of unique. Like I've definitely worked with people on the Unity front, and that they just seem to be a lot more accessible. Whereas Unreal's kind of just been a bit more like its own thing, closed off on its own island. But yeah, I know that's a long answer for a very
We have another question.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so I know that you said that with the Fortnite creator, games are becoming less of taking less I forgot the word, but it only being like megabytes instead of just this huge game of whatever thousand
Yeah.
or whatever. So do you think because it's a smaller it has smaller storage value, I guess, do you think that impacts the quality of the game or
No, I think the no, from like the asset side of things, so the actual objects within the game world, Epic, and through Nanite especially, and I'm not 100% sure if Nanite's in UEFN, but it basically optimizes very high quality, large file size things into a very small package. So you're still getting the same quality of assets in world. It's just optimized incredibly to be able to run in an accessible manner. So yeah, I definitely don't think it limits what, visually you can achieve in a game. Because really, for the most part, the bulk of the game size is typically within the assets rather than the code.
okay.
Yeah.
You said, well, I'm kind of curious, what kind of computer, I may need to build at home
Yeah.
to kind of keep this going, keep practicing beyond this class.
Yeah. I mean, what did I have previously? When I was first doing like the UEFN stuff and just Unreal 5 stuff, I was working with a 1080, so a few series back, but NVIDIA 1080 GPU. That was able to handle things pretty decently. The thing about Unreal, and you may have seen this before, is they actually have like a render settings button. So I don't know where it is in the editor. Actually, I was gonna see if I could. Yeah, like up in the outliner, which is typically in the top right, there's like a settings gear, and you can change the quality of rendering from anywhere from low to cinematic. If you're running a 4090, you can probably get cinematic and have that run at 60 FPS or something like that. But you can always lower the quality of the output before, if you're doing UEFN, like you could do everything on low on probably a, you know, relatively cheap machine. And then, when it comes time to actually do the gameplay, then that will all be packaged up and run appropriately according to the machine that you have. So yeah, I think honestly, like it's tough. I would say, especially with any of the new gen cards, graphics cards, you could, I'm sure there wouldn't be an issue with it. Um, but yeah, from a hardware perspective, it's probably a little bit of investment up front just to get access uh, to a machine that can handle it. But um, there's probably also in the online documentation something about minimum technical requirements or minimum hardware requirements to run this as well. So it might be worth searching online.
So all of these computers have UEFN. So we have Unreal. So we have a professor that teaches all of UEFN. That's just Seagal, and that's in games. So all of these computers also a workshop that I building your own your computer. We also have several folks in this class who've done it, because if you put it together with partners, you're going to you go to Microsoft. But you know, you can do it, or you can get like.
I'm gonna have like another.
I'm gonna ask them because it was only like 4 people came. And I just promoted. Yeah,
I saw the day up and it was like an hour, like,
yeah.
I was like,
Well, so I have some more questions unless somebody else. Does. Okay. So, Stuart, that was so great in an overview and exactly kind of where this class is going. It's really trying to understand all parts. There's other classes that do much deeper dive into virtual production, into game design, game development, but there's nobody kind of looking at the business side. And so, to your point, a lot of the creativity is in figuring out business. And you can see even Unreal and Unity and Roblox are all trying to figure out how gain a following, let creators make money, and also make money. But today they talked about how video ads in Roblox. So that's interesting. But I wanted to know from you, what are you seeing in the way that people are using this ecosystem?
I'm sorry, are you able to type it?
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I think it's like the position in the room in which the speaker is, but it just keeps cutting out. Great question. Yeah. So actually, there was a hackathon that happened in Los Angeles at LA Tech Week last year that I attended, and this group of very excited developers were like, "We're gonna build a new EFN and we're gonna use AI." Um, that's cool, but it's pretty limiting in terms of what you can do. Epic keeps things very close. So, like, if you are wanting to, say, for example, use a large language model within Unreal to provide responses for an NPC chat or something like that, you just can't do it. Unreal's kind of, sorry, Epic's kind of stayed away from that conversation, has really kept with metaverse being the primary narrative. That, like, I listened to this keynote and AI wasn't really mentioned or highlighted, whereas things like Roblox, it has been. I think, what you can do at the moment is, you got exposure to Blockade, but things like Luma.ai, I'm not sure if you guys have played with it, but generating 3D assets through prompts, you can generate something, download that, and import it into Unreal. For Blockade, like, you can, build out skyboxes and put them in worlds too. Maybe with Verse you might be able to do something, but you basically can't tap into external APIs with UEFN, which kind of limits things massively. In world, now, yes, there's so many companies at the moment. I just want to triple check that yes. So in world, I have played with a bit. I actually used to work with a company called Magic, which is basically like in world, but an open box. Like, you can do whatever you want with it. In-world has kind of swim lanes and limitations that I honestly just wasn't too interested in finding out what they were, so I didn't play with it all that much. But something like InWorld still wouldn't be able to incorporate it into UEFN, because you can do it in Unreal, but Unreal allows for third-party plugins to be used within the engine. UEFN doesn't have any of that yet. I say yet because I think they probably will. But yeah, it's still very highly limited. I really like things like InWorld, and you know what can be done on that front. I think we're like the first step in like 100 steps of discovering what can actually be done there. You know, I definitely check out Magic with a CK at the end, if you're interested in building out that type of stuff. It's a very small company, but it's a very powerful tool and it allows you to create agents and deploy them. So like I used to build lot of agents, and the platform kind of looks like an Unreal blueprint if you've had exposure to that. So it's visual scripting. And I kind of created my own AI NPCs that then I basically sent those responses through to Unreal, and actually had an NPC sitting in like a small holographic frame, that I could speak to, and would tap into large language models, and all of that was running through Unreal. And yeah, so yeah, another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can. It chops out weirdly, but yes, I can hear you perfectly right now.
Professor Elizabeth lets know that you are in the consulting, and I did stop here for the
Wait.
SMJR.
Yes.
Going into consulting, when it comes to space such as big as Web3 and so changing constantly, how do you limit how much hours you put?
Fantastic
Like,
question.
how do you package that stuff?
It's such a brilliant question. It's funny that you say that because I posted something on my LinkedIn like probably a week ago. It's the first time I posted on LinkedIn all year because I was like I spend too much time, because there are too many things that you just cannot keep track of everything. And if you try to, you know, what I've found is that you can constantly inundate yourself with all of the updates within these spaces and kind of just be live wired into the feeds and into conversations and into discords. And honestly, a lot of last year and the years before, that's kind of how I was living. And
Are
you
you a
get to
one-man show? Or do you
yeah,
have a team?
yeah. Yeah. And I get to I got to stay on the bleeding edge of everything that was happening. But what I realized after I kind of took a break like a week ago, it was only that long ago that I kind of cut off for a bit, was that really to be a subject matter expert on these things, you really just need to pay attention to the larger moving concepts, and the updates that come that way. You know, if you are continuing to stalk, you'll see that post I'm referring to, and you know, I would be able to get hourly or half hourly updates from all of these different companies and all of these different tech providers doing all this amazing stuff. But even though it was innovative and new and no one else had done it before, it didn't mean that it was going to drive an immediate impact on business, culture, or society. Um, and I think it's important that you try to pull back and limit yourself to only paying attention to those larger pieces so that you stay on top of everything, but you're not as involved in the minutia of the development, and more the things that actually drive business impact. So yeah, it's a very long answer again, but hopefully that gives you some context.
But but I'm also very interested in like what the boundaries look like. Like when you present, like let's say someone reaches out to you and they're like, hey, I would be interested in your consulting services. Is it like hourly? Are they expecting a product? Are they just expecting an hour meeting? Like what do the logistics look like?
Yeah, it started up as consulting, but it's also I call it consulting and development because I knew that it wouldn't always be just consulting. So I would I work more in um, actually being ingrained into different teams. So I'll be working with clients on larger projects, multi-monthly type contracts or just ongoing contracts. And I will be embedded within the team to play a certain role. Um, so, from hourly consulting type stuff. I don't necessarily get as much of that. It's more the larger long-term things where it's like, hey, there's a new technology we're building out. Um, we know it has an audience somewhere, but we have no idea how to tap into that audience. And we need someone who understands the technology and can package up the complexities and explain it in an easy way to the right people to bring users in. And I had a decade, well, 8 years of marketing experience prior to doing any of this. Um, and so like that was kind of my bread and butter. I was in data science analytics at these media companies, and I needed to explain how, all of the data represented what people should be doing differently in their business. So that's kind of more of the role that I play almost on the product marketing front, more than consulting.
Thank
And
you.
also, yeah, also just working with developers and developer relationships and understanding, what communities actually take advantage of it. Because, mention something like InWorld, like has a lot of applications, but you gotta be interested. You gotta find the people that are interested in the intersection of not just gaming and game development, but also AI, are willing to deal with AI. The tons of people who just don't want to hear about it and will stay away from anything associated with it. So it's finding the right people within the right domains.
Yeah, go ahead.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll take it.
So I'm not trying to get in your pockets or nothing, but I'm kind of curious, like how lucrative is this work that you do? Just trying to get a ballpark.
Yeah. I don't know, like it depends. It really does depend. There's a company I work with at the moment, called Crucible. And I started out by doing like gameplay demos. And they have an SDK, which is a Web3 SDK. It allows you to tap into different aspects of reading data off the blockchain. And uh, it was basically I used Unreal, but never really made a game in Unreal. But I tinkered with it, and I was like, okay, I can probably pick this up and run with it. And I just learned through YouTube tutorials how to build out these mini games, do some um, virtual production, things like that to make it look good. Um, and for that type of stuff, like if you go down the game development route, virtual production route, this, that, and the other, it can be very lucrative, I would say. But that's not really where I have focused. And I think you will most likely be, I don't want to say this and generalize it, but if you become a subject matter expert in one thing or one set of tools, like let's just say Unreal Engine. You become an Unreal Engine developer and you just learn Unreal inside out, you can make a lot because that is a very limited pool of people that can do that. Same with, Unity or something like that. Game engines like currently in the process of looking at candidacy for people with true experience in these tools. Very limited, very limited. Even with all of the game industry layoffs, like the pool of talent is extremely limited. So if you're trying to create a lucrative business, then I would say find a tool or a set of tools that work together, become an expert at that and sell that. And that's what you do, and that's what you focus on. And I think that there's a lot of success. I have a personal problem of just I'm interested in way too much stuff, and now I find it very hard. Like uh, I think I've very tapped into AI and the advances on that front. Not just on, oh, this is what a large language model is and this, that, and the other, but like, how do I actually incorporate these different tools into my business and make it drive an impact? But at the same time, love game development, love Unreal Engine, love doing virtual production, still do a lot of Web3 work and, development on that side of things. I like speaking with people in these different communities, so a lot of developer relationship stuff. So my generalization with my skill set has definitely cost me in terms of creating a very lucrative business, but I just have the personality that I just like to keep on top of a vast array of things rather than focus on one.
Well, that, that definitely sort of describes a lot of people, but also you get time because you have family. And you also, I mean, that's what fuels you. So your fun
Yeah.
is built into your work, so you really have to know what you want, in this, so if you want to make a lot of money, you might get to play with all the different tools, right? So, and we're going to talk about tensions and all of this. But this was an amazing overview of the ecosystem and how it all fits together. And Stuart is an amazing person who can get like a broad overview, deliver it very clearly, create amazing tutorials. And Ivan was asking, like, is he a developer or is he a salesperson? But it's the person, somebody who like touches all the different parts, knows how to play with SDKs and APIs, but not like full-fledged programmer, but knows how to learn. And, so we're going to talk about that in this class afterwards, but I'll let you go, Stuart. And this was amazing, really, really helpful. And you know about so many different things and so many different perspectives on all of this, and just understand the whole ecosystem. So thank you so much.
Of course, and thank you all for your questions. Some of the best questions I've ever been asked. So, really appreciate the involvement on that front. And honestly, feel free to reach out to me at any stage. Always happy to have a chat. And if you have any further questions, just hit me up.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, take care. Good luck.
Bye.